1 month ago, today, my best friend died. And as much as I want to pretend that this last month didn't happen, and that none of this happened, and that this isn't real, it is real. And I simultaneously don't want to forget a single thing about this last month. And the love that there was for her, and the love that there was in her name and in her honor, and trying to do the best that we could for each other and for her. And my memory's shit, and it's something that I've always hated about myself. And I don't want any of my memories to fade of her or of the last few weeks that were so special to honor her with her family and everyone that loved her. And she was the biggest supporter of Gallivant Growglow, and I was always going to feature on my channel someday. Just not like this. But here we are. And she also loved storytime videos and always wanted me to shoot them and sent them to me on TikTok all the time. But it wasn't supposed to be like this. Before I talk about what happened and this last month, I want to talk about Julie. She was everything to me. She was my best friend, my sister, my confidant. She was ethereal and clearly too good for this world. And I guess it's true when they say that the good ones die young. Because this was so unexpected and so sudden and way too soon. And it doesn't make any sense. But she was so beautiful in every way. She was a mermaid and a fairy tale princess, and she was Snow White and loved animals, and they loved her and all of the weird creatures, and she loved possums and bugs and giant toads, and she was so good with them and showed so much understanding and grace for creatures that I frankly had no patience for. And that's something I'll take with me and try to be better at for her. She looked just like the princess from Brave. The beautiful big red hair. No one looks like that. No one looks like that. And she was brave, and she was so strong, and she was everyone's rock. She went through so much. She took care of her family and my family and our other best friend's family because the two of us moved away and Julie stayed home, and she took care of Amanda's dad, who I know will miss her so much at her daily visits because he hates people. She was one of the only people that he loved. And she took care of my parents and worked for them and dealt with their crazy, so I didn't have to. And most of all, she took care of her dad and lost him a few years ago and nursed him till the end and did everything that no one else could do because it was so hard. And she took care of him, and they had such a special relationship. And I know that they're together now. And that's one of the only consoling things about this, is knowing that Julie is with T. She was a total badass in so many ways. She was the kindest person. She was so sweet to everyone, and she had such a varied network of friends. And I mean, even showing her best friends, like, none of us had anything in common except for our shared childhoods. But we were all so different, and she had that with so many people, and so many people reached out saying how amazing she was and how kind she was to them, and how they'll never forget that she said something or did something when they were down, and maybe she didn't even know. And just her light being there helped so many people. And she had such a close relationship with her mom. And they were so cute together. Watching TV endlessly and bickering only the cutest way that they could do. And she got to spend so much time with her family. And her beautiful sister and best friend Mary, and her husband Brian. And her niece Darby, who she was so close with. She was Tia. And they had the most amazing bond. And seeing Darby now, she has so much Julie in her. More so even than her own parents. She's just so little Julie. And this loss for Darby is going to be so immense. But at least she's only 8. She's resilient. And she says the craziest things, comforting all of us and telling us that it's going to be okay. And Tia's always with us. Because that is the smartest, most unique, creative, smart little girl. And so much of that is because Julie had such a big part in her upbringing. And I don't want to forget to mention Julie's brother, Jake, who she loved so much, even when they butt heads constantly. She had such a special relationship with everyone. And her partner, Anthony, who I know is just so heartbroken. But Julie loved him so much. And I'm just so grateful that she got to experience that kind of love. And that closeness with someone. And they were sickeningly in love. Like, so much PDA. It was like they were little teenagers, and it was so cute and so gross. But I cherish every moment that I got to see them together like that. She was so loved. And she was so kind. But she was stubborn and knew exactly what she wanted from life and knew exactly who she was. And if you crossed her, you better be scared. And that is a family trait, because her mom and her sister are the exact same way. Literally the nicest people in the world, but do not mess with them or their loved ones. And Julie was like that for me, and like that for my little sister. And I'm so sad we won't have any more moments like that. And the world feels so heavy. And this is a grief that I didn't understand and have never known. And I wish I didn't know. And I don't wish on anyone. And it's a pain that we will all feel for the rest of our lives, because we see her in everything. I mean, all of the little creatures, the butterflies, and the frogs, and the grasshoppers, and the hummingbirds, and the flowers, and Oh, the magnolias and the honeysuckles. And I feel her the most when I'm outside because she loved being outside and she loved long walks and she could walk forever and she had these legs that didn't end. And we all had to learn how to walk really fast to keep up with her. She was so unique and she always knew what to say. And she would tell you when you were being a bitch or being crazy. But she was also the best ride or die. And if I hated somebody, she hated them. And if I thought V was being super annoying, she was like, girl, you deserve better. But also she loved V and was obsessed with it. But that was just how she always was. And she was that friend that I went to for everything. When things were good, when things were bad. And I try not to go down that rabbit hole of everything that she won't be there for now. But it's really hard. Because I don't know how anything is going to just be happy ever again. Because when I get pregnant, if I get pregnant, she would be the first person that I would call. And I wanted her to be the godmother of my first daughter. And I was always gonna give them her middle name. And I still will. Of course. But it just won't be the same. And she was the biggest supporter of all of our crazy dreams and aspirations, and so proud of us. And she was a homebody. She never left home. And I didn't understand that because I left home so early and I didn't look back. And I would come home for the holidays, but I never came home enough because I thought there would be a time for that. And only recently, at this age, did I think, oh, it would be nice to come home every summer and spend every summer at home. But she was a huge part of that. Yet I still feel that way because that's what she would want, and that's what was important to her. She always knew what was important in life, and she wasn't concerned about a career or getting ahead or anything superficial. My parents, who were employees, always were frustrated that she wouldn't take on more hours because she was so good and she was with them for a decade, and they wanted her to become manager one day or at least work full-time, and she didn't want it. She didn't want to work full-time because she wanted to spend her time with her family and the ones that mattered. And I was so frustrated sometimes because I wanted her to visit me in Florida, and God, it was such a trial even getting her here for my wedding, but she did. Of course she came. And it was COVID and it was complicated, and of course she made it. But I didn't think she was at first, and I was really upset. But I didn't understand from her perspective like I do now. And there are things that I'm trying so hard to forgive myself for. And I feel really selfish about some of my thoughts or behaviors. And I know that she understood why I had to move so far away and why it was hard for me to come home. And I know she understood that. I know she's not mad at me, but I'm mad at me. I just thought we had forever. And that's something that I'm gonna have to work through. because I'm so jealous of everyone that got more time with her. But I know that she understood, and I think that now her spirit will visit me here more than she ever could when she was in her body. Because I know that she's with all of us. I feel her. I feel her so much and everything. But she was amazing. She was so amazing, and she had such a light. And she was just so different than anyone I've ever known or ever met in all of my travels. She was the best. Just hands down the best. And losing her at 31, there will never be enough time. And the fact that I have to live another 2/3 of my life without my best friend and soulmate is an unbearable pain. But again, I don't want to forget any of this. As much as I don't want to feel this way, and I want to heal, and I want to do better, and I want to live my life better than ever before, bigger than ever before, in her honor and for her and how she would want. It feels so impossible right now to have dreams or aspirations or work towards goals because she won't be here to share them with. As much as I want to not feel this way, I don't want to not feel this way, because then it means the time has passed and that this is real, and that I am settling into accepting that this is life now. And I know I'll miss her every day of my life forever. I know that. But I also know it will get easier somehow, because she's with me. So I don't forget, this is what happened. On Sunday, August 6th, V wasn't here. He was at his brother's bachelorette party in Colorado, or bachelor party. And I woke up to some missed calls from our other best friend, Amanda, and a text, "Are you awake?" And then I saw the first text from Mary, Julie's sister. And when I first saw it, I thought that she was saying something had happened to their mom, which would have also broken my heart, because she's like my mom. She raised me in a lot of ways. But it wasn't. And when I read it and saw that it was Julie that had had a seizure the night and was being flown out of the state to another hospital, I didn't know what to do or feel. I was just kind of in shock. And I called Amanda back and texted Mary and Amanda back, and kind of found out more of what had happened. Then in the middle of the night, Julian had what seemed to be a seizure and was unresponsive. And they had taken her to BB hospital, which, let me backtrack again. Julie was born in the same hospital as me, across the street from her house, a week and a day after I was. She was a week and a day younger than me. She was also a Gemini. We were a crazy pair. And she was one of my first friends in preschool. We've been friends since preschool. And I remember when she would get sick, I would take homework to her house on the way home, and we had such a good child. And then, as friends do, you know, we weren't as close in middle school, not even middle school, late elementary school, early middle school. I don't know, it's kind of a blur, but we reconnected like 8th grade and became super close again. We were always friends. We became super close again in 8th grade. And since then, we've been inseparable. And when I was 17, my parents sent me away a lot. When I was 17, they kicked me out. And I was living out of my car. And Julie and her family took me in that summer. And I lived with them for almost a year. And that was the best summer. God, we were so wild and we had so much fun. And we have so many photos that I'm so grateful for. But she saved my life that summer. I remember when they took me in, and in the middle of the night I went outside and I kissed the ground in the front yard and I said, no one's ever going to take my freedom from me again. And I never let that happen again. And I could only say that because I knew I was in a safe space where I was loved and accepted for who I was. And Julie's whole family are saints, that there's so many people that have similar stories like this where they were loved in that house and felt safe in that house. And she honestly saved so many lives. Like mentally, emotionally, but also physically. Like, saved Amanda from literally dying. Saved her mom from heart issues. And I just honestly don't know where I would be today if it wasn't for that. Julie taking me in and Julie's family showing me unconditional love. And all of the things that happened before and after. And that was why I had to move so far away and stay away a lot. And you knew that. But anyway, she was taken to this hospital. And they couldn't do anything for her. They didn't know what was wrong. And so they airlifted her out to a hospital in Pennsylvania, and I'm trying to wrap my head around this, and I mean, I knew it was serious. But I couldn't deal with the fact of how serious it was, and I think I was just like in self-preservation and in denial, and I did call my best friend here, Noe, who was an angel, and she stayed with me all day as I continued to get more information and cry and take breaks and try to pack, and this is Sunday, and Amanda and I were thinking she'd drive down from Vermont Tuesday, I'd fly in Tuesday, thinking this was gonna be like a rescue mission. That like she was gonna be okay, maybe she was gonna be really sick, maybe we would have to care for her and take care of her. After, this traumatic thing that's happened to her body, but there was no way in my mind that this was like that they couldn't do anything, they couldn't save her. But as the day went on and my dad had driven up to be with the family and kind of help, and I'm close with my parents now, but it's a complicated relationship, and I was kind of worried that he was going up there. But I guess it was amazing that he was there and that he was incredibly helpful for the family, because of course everyone was in shock and freaking out, and I guess he was able to be some kind of rational and maybe dissect information better. But when my dad called me crying, that's when I really knew that it was as serious as it was. And I immediately booked a flight for first thing Monday morning. And I called Amanda and I called our other best friend, Stein. And we were on the phone all night and going back and forth. Were they going to drive in overnight? Were we going to wait? And it ended up being that they could get a few hours of sleep. Amanda could pick up Stein in Vermont, Connecticut, and meet me at the airport when I landed at noon. And pick me up from the airport, and that's what we did. And I almost didn't make it off that plane because I was having such a panic attack and just uncontrollably sobbing, and the freaking flight attendants wouldn't give me any water. Assholes. But I got off and I bummed a cigarette from a stranger while I waited and tried to calm down, and then they got me and we drove to the hospital together. Again, still thinking, still hoping that this was going to be a rescue mission and we were going to storm in there and be like, wake up, bitch, you're being so dramatic. Can you not, please? And, as soon as we saw her, I think we all knew that she wasn't there anymore. That it was her body, but that she wasn't there. And, we're going back and forth about all the options, and is there anyone else that can look? And at this point, they're literally just keeping her body going so that we can all say goodbye. And it wasn't what I wanted to see, and it wasn't what I was expecting. But it was pretty clear immediately to wrap your head around the fact that your perfectly healthy, perfectly happy best friend who just turned 31 is just gonna be gone in one instant, in one night. Just body failed like that. It's just so horrific. And nothing prepares you for that. I mean, every death is horrible, but there was no, lead up to it. There was no preparation. There was no bracing yourself. There was no time to figure out what was wrong and how to fix it. It just happened. And our whole family's there. And her best friends were there, and so glad we all got to be there together, to be there for her and for each other. And we all took our turns talking to her. At first it was like, wake up, we need you. And then when the doctors made it clear that the next time that she went, they weren't going to resuscitate her, because at this point they had already had to resuscitate her, and so then it became goodbyes. And I held her hand and I kissed her fingers and her toes and her cheeks and her forehead and her hair, and I hugged her and I loved her. And then we were all in the room as they, essentially stopped all the machines. And her body's gasping for breath, and it was horrendous. Then it stopped. And then it stopped, and we all knew, and she wasn't religious, but she was spiritual, and she did believe in God, and she loved her rosaries and her Marys, and so the pastor came in and prayed while this all happened, and we all kind of stood around for a while and said more goodbyes. And then we left the room, and I remember thinking to myself, did I touch her enough? Did I kiss her enough? And having to tell myself it didn't matter, because it was never going to be enough. 31 years with her was never going to be enough. And then we sobbed. We sobbed and we held each other and we talked about how unbelievable it was, and then it was time to go. And as we're all driving back home to Delaware, it's about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive home. Well, first, before we left, it had been a beautiful day, and we had joked about how the apocalypse was going to come now because Julie was so fiery and had so much power and so much energy, and she was so mad, and it didn't help me find any peace because she was so mad. And it just started torrential downpouring as we were all waiting to get our cars, and there was a tornado watch, and there were tornadoes on the way home, and the sky was bright orange. The color of her hair, just bright orange red. I've never seen anything like it. And the lightning was going sideways. It was crazy, like literally going sideways. And her brother saw double rainbows on the way home, and it's just absolutely insane. And it stormed like that all night. And I just know she was so angry, and we're just all trying to figure out, did something go wrong? Did someone not do enough? Did the doctors fuck up? And that night, my sister had also come down to stay with my parents, and we drove to my parents' house and just like briefly said hi and were trying to figure out what to do. And Stein said that a friend of his who was actually one of Julie's dad's best friends growing up, that he was out of town, and he said we could stay at his house and do whatever we needed. And I couldn't leave Amanda and Stein at that time, so we all went together and stayed up all night and drank old fashions, and smoked weed, and cried, and chain smoked cigarettes, and just did whatever we could do. And Amanda and I fell asleep that night. We were just holding each other, forehead to forehead, just holding each other all night. And I woke up in tears. I woke up at 7 a.m., which I never wake up at 7 a.m. Just in tears already, just crying all morning. As we just tried to figure out, what do we do now? we went to Julie's house, because Julie's house is everyone's house, and that house is home. And we spent every day there while I was home. The whole, 4 weeks, almost a month that I was home. We spent every day there, just all together, crying, individually, and taking turns being strong and crying and getting food or calling. And the only thing that kept us going that first week and a half was each other. Loving each other the way that Julie would have loved every one of us. And planning, because we had to plan for Julie's funeral, and it seemed so surreal, and we should have been planning for her wedding, should have been the next thing that we should have been planning, and we were planning for her funeral. And we all just kind of organically had our own roles to play, and mine was finding the venue and dealing with the venue, and Amanda's was coordinating with her parents, who are funeral home directors, to arrange that, and Stein and his wife were amazing and wrote a GoFundMe and obituary, and because obviously this was so unexpected and completely unplanned for. And my sister made the slideshow and made a shared playlist that we could all add to. And we all just cried. Cried, and then were active and tried to do something, cried, and barely eat. And Anthony's mom made these muffins that I think I survived off for the first few days, and just starve and not be hungry. Then suddenly my body would be like, "You're starving." I would just stuff a cranberry muffin down my throat, and we were all kind of like that. Because you just don't know what to do, or how to be, or how to exist anymore, because your whole world is crumbling and everything that you thought was isn't anymore, and you're seeing life through this completely new light, and it's terrible. And I just felt out of my body. Like, this can't be real. But it is real because I saw it happen. Then Julie's niece Darby came a few days into this and went through, so many stages, and at that point it was good for us to have her around because she's just such a little delightful child. She's hilarious and so cute and so Julie. But it was so hard. And at one point she had us take her, or she had me take her on walks and had us take her to the store, and I remember walking through the aisles of IGA and just cursing in my mind because I was so honored to be able to be there with Darby and for Darby, and she really gravitated towards me and I was so honored. But I was so mad because it shouldn't have been me. It shouldn't have had to be me to do this. Julie should have been doing this. Julie should be there for her. Julie shouldn't be missing a single second of Darby growing up and of being the wonderful child that she is. And I just heard Julie in my head being like, "It's okay, and you got this, and you're gonna know what to do, and you can just do what I would do. Just how would I be with Darby? Just be that with Darby. And I'm gonna try my best forever to be the best one of Darby's surrogate aunt, and she has a million, and she's so blessed with all of Julie's friends and Mary's friends, and I still struggle with that because I'm in Florida, and I can't be there for everyone as much as I would like to, and I really didn't want to leave when I had to. But Darby was an angel, and she was hilarious. Well, she wasn't totally an angel. She definitely was acting up some, but what do you expect? And it was all innocent 8-year-old stuff, you know, just pushing boundaries and kicking chairs on this when she was swinging, and just stupid things. But she was so good. And so loving and, like, consoling Anthony's daughter, Jordan, saying it's gonna be okay, she's always with us. And she says, like, the craziest things. Like, she's, like, you wonder, like, where did she come from? Because she has these very wise sayings that she has. And we were, again, just all together. And having Darby there, we also had to start to heal and learn how to keep it together more, because we didn't want to, you know, sob around Darby all day. So then we started to get it together more. But anyway, we're just trying to get through that week and a half until that Wednesday. I think it was the 17th, 16th. One of those days was a Wednesday. We're all just like, we just have to get through Wednesday. We just have to get through Wednesday. And Wednesday came. And the funeral was fucking weird. I mean, it was weird. What do you say? I mean, why are we here? What are we doing? Why do we have to do this? And funerals they're not really for the family. I guess they're to honor who passed and to give everyone else to come in and grieve and say their goodbyes. But it's just so awful. Like, the whole family has to stand up there, and Amanda and Stein and Anthony and I stood up there at the end, and just everybody comes in and gets in the line and hugs everyone and says, I'm so sorry, and you just say, me too. But it was really beautiful to see a packed full house. And then my mom sang at the beginning of the funeral. She's a beautiful singer. She sang that song from Wicked. Like, Better Because I Knew You, or Good For You. I'd sung something, and it was beautiful, and I sobbed the whole time because the lyrics just hit like darts to my heart, because it was all about how, because of knowing someone, you were a better person. And I feel so blessed that I got to have her at all. And she was my best friend. And some people never have friends like that. And I did get her for a long time. It's never gonna be long enough, but so blessed that I had her when I did. That I had her at all. And then Amanda's mom spoke, and Sue, a close neighbor, family friend, spoke, and then Stein wrote something for us, and Amanda and I went and stood with him, and he cried during it, but he got through it, and it was so hard. And Darby wrote a poem, or read a poem, and she was so good and so articulate, such a performer. And then she had, her meltdown while Stein was speaking, and then my dad went up and spoke, and he rambled, but it was really good. And he pointed out a lot of amazing things about Julie that maybe not everyone knew. And then we went to Irish Eyes, the venue after, and the screen show was up and played music that she loved, and we ate and we chatted, and it was the weirdest party. I hated that party. I didn't want to be at that party at all. The party. But it was for her and for other people to celebrate, and we did have a lot of like old school friends that came, and that was really nice. Showed a lot of love for her and said a lot of really amazing things about how wonderful she was. But then, then we went back to Julie's house and all the flowers from the funeral, and we all just drank, and at the end of the night, we went to Amanda's dad's pool and we all jumped in our dresses because, well, this is another weird thing. Amanda and I had decided that we were going to dress as if it was for Julie's funeral, and we wore these beautiful, colorful, way too expensive gowns that we got, and it was so weird. And I definitely, at the funeral, kind of second-guessed that choice because it was like, we just look insane. I feel insane. We look insane. But Julie would have loved that too. And we jumped in our dresses. Fuck those dresses. What am I ever gonna wear that dress for again? And swam in our dresses and floated and looked at the stars and the moon, and it was healing but awful. And I walked home afterwards, and Wednesday had happened. And Wednesday was gone. And what do you do after Wednesday? Because now we just have to deal with it. And really beautifully, someone had set up a meal train online where people sign up, and so for weeks people brought dinner every day. And we all just stayed at Julie's house, and we just stayed with each other. And the first time that I went up to Julie's room during all of this, I think this was before the funeral, maybe a week after she died, and I finally got the balls to go up there. The guts. Balls are sensitive. I never understood that, but I got the guts to go up there, and I just sobbed on her floor and found myself hugging her door of sweatshirts, and I smelled her shoes. And I laid on her side of the bed and just had a really weird, horrible time. And I truly do believe that her spirit left in that room, in her childhood home, where her father died, next to the love of her life, which is how she would have wanted it. She never would have had to go through being hooked up in hospitals, and I think they messed a lot of things up, and I think that if she did have a chance, that they messed it up, and they didn't do everything they could have done to save her. But I do believe that she was gone in that room, but I thought it would be worse being up there in her bed where she died, but I didn't feel like she was trapped there or haunting us, or I feel her outside. I feel her in the air. I feel her in the storm, in the wind, in the flowers. And then, yeah, that was the first time I went up there. And then the days pass, and we ate a little better every day, and we just continued to cry on and off and be with each other, and that was the most important thing, and that was such a blessing, and I had such anxiety about leaving. I still have anxiety about not being there anymore at home. And V came, of course. V was there for like a week and a half. And I struggled telling him because he was on his brother's bachelor party Sunday, and he wasn't coming home till Monday night. And I did eventually end up calling him Sunday night to tell him what was happening, because I was going to be gone before he came back. And he ended up flying out the next day. And Tuesday or Wednesday he came out, and was with me for the next week and a half and for the funeral and everything, and he was wonderful, of course. And then I had to drive him up to the airport when he left, because I was still going to stay for another few weeks, or 2 weeks, I guess, at that point, and I had so much anxiety about just leaving Lewis, about driving to Philly, and I stopped on the way back and saw my cousin, who lives in northern Delaware, and his son, and his wife, and my aunt, and it was nice, but it was weird. They were really lovely, and it was a good halfway stop, and then I came back, and I was so happy to be back. And then about a week before I left, I had to go up to Vermont. This is when shit gets real weird, too. This is the weirdest, trippiest, fucked up month of my fucking life. Amanda is this, like, wild wilderness woman. She had to slaughter her chickens for her winter meat. And so I went up there and I helped her, and I killed my first chicken, and she made us wear silk gowns, and it was very ceremonial and super weird, and like a weird, fucked up horror movie. And it wasn't fun, but it was spiritual and natural and connecting with nature and with environment, with our ancestors. And I was so sad for Amanda that Julie didn't get to see her home or experience this weird shit with her, but I'm so grateful that we got to spend that time together. And I saw Amanda's tattoo shop and was so proud of her, and I know Julie was so proud of her. And then I took the Amtrak down because Amanda had to stay for a week, and took the Amtrak down to New York, stayed with my sister for a night, saw two of my best friends from college, and had dinner with them and cried with them, and they were so lovely, and everyone was really lovely. And then went back to Minnie's apartment and cried with her, and then we drove back down to Delaware the next day, and I was there for another week. And I don't want to forget to mention that in that time that I was home, I had, really created these even stronger bonds with Julie's brother-in-law and Julie's partner and her brother's fiance or girlfriend, wife, and there was a lot of beauty in the darkness of being able to be there for each other. And that is the biggest takeaway from all of this, is that you have to be surrounded by the other people that are going through it as much as you are, because no one else is going to understand. And that's part of my anxiety of coming home, is that no one here understands. And everyone's been lovely, but no one understands, and everyone's life goes on normally, and they're having fun, and they're partying, and living their lives, and that just feels so impossible right now to ever get back to. And I fake it for parts of the day, because I gotta work, and I gotta see V's family, and I just cry every day. Just make space to cry every day, and then go do what I have to do. And we all have to do that. Everyone had to get back to work. Everyone had to, do things that none of us want to do, but have to do. And Julie wouldn't want us to just give up on our lives. She wouldn't want us to be depressed and live in bed forever. And that's not honoring her memory. That's not honoring her. So when I was home for the last week, I had a few things that I needed to do for myself. And we grew up on the coast, and there's a state park, and where we spent a lot of time, and I spent like 4 hours there one morning, and I woke up early and I went to see the surf jetty and watch the surfers and cry on the rocks and feel the ocean breeze and the waves, and just cried like a crazy person. I just didn't care if anyone saw or if anyone cared. It didn't matter. I ran into an old friend. I actually had a picture of him with her, showed it to him, cried, hi, whatever. There's also these benches of other friends that we've lost over the years. There's a bench for Justin, a bench for Nate, and sat with them and talked to them. So it's something I always do when I go home. And then I went into, there's these great dunes, and they're like off this path, and you have to trek out there, and I knew no one was going to see me or hear me back then. I probably spent 2 hours back there sobbing and screaming. Sobbing and screaming, and I'm so sorry, and oh, I can't do this without you, and I miss you, and how am I going to do this? It's hours doing that, and it was cathartic, and it was crazy, and it would sprinkle rain when I was sobbing, and then when I would stop, breathe for a little bit, the sun would come out. And then I would sob again and the rain would come. And then I would stop and the sun would come. And I knew she was there with me the whole time. And I found this little lizard and saw these beautiful birds and I just screamed. And it was horrendous, it was awful, but it was cathartic. And then I started playing the songs from her playlist, and the songs would match how I was feeling. It was like she was DJing the Spotify. And finally, I guess Amanda, like all these songs were like Fleetwood Mac and old 70s stuff that we loved, and it was Julie's favorite. And then I guess at some point Amanda had started adding Julie's favorite rap songs. And after about 2 hours of this, those came on, and I was like, alright, I guess you're telling me to get my shit together. Oh, and in between the jetty and the sand dunes, I had brought my sister's longboard to this big hill we used to bomb as kids, and did that in between the two sobbing locations, and so I was just exhausted. And then the other thing I had to do was go see my grandparents' grave. And I went and I talked with them. And then that was that day, and then the other thing that I had to do, which I'd been avoiding until that very last day, was go back to Julie's room and say goodbye. Because I had to leave. And
this is where my phone stopped recording, which I didn't realize. I talked for probably about another hour, and someday I'll finish this story, maybe in another month from now. But grief is exhausting, and there's no right way to do it. There's no right way to do this. This journey is different for everyone. It's different for everyone in this situation because we all had our own unique and extremely special relationships with her. I don't know when I stop waking up and crying every day. I don't know if this happens for months or years or forever. But right now, the best thing that I can do for myself is set aside time every day to spend with her in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. And I hope this video helps you if you've been through anything similar. I hope you haven't, but chances are you probably have on some level experienced some kind of loss and some kind of grief. Just know that you aren't alone. This is a terrible, horrible part of this beautiful, terrible life. And we are in it together.